So I'm doing a little review for kids, and I'm going to work through a few easy ones now. All right, so here's an easy one. The X is unhappy. He doesn't like his lower floor condo now. He wishes he was in the upper floor. And people in Florida right now are thinking that. I guarantee you. If they're on the lowest floor condo in Florida with all of the rain and the giant storm moving through, they wish they were higher up. Did you know that condos usually cost more the higher the floor you're on? It's one of the reasons. Because if there's a big storm or rioting in the streets, people that are on the higher up levels aren't affected by it. So this guy moves up to the top and you get x squared. Raise your hand if you had x squared. And why is it positive now? Because it's happy now. It moved to the other side. Same thing would happen if it was on the top. You just move it to the bottom. All right, that's an easy one. Well, here's the hard version of that. What if there's a bunch of numbers like 20? Can you factor that into 4 times 5? Over 16. Can you factor that into 4 times 4? X to the third, and there's some x's on the bottom that are unhappy. Move them up. And then a y to the second and a y to the third. Can you simplify that? Because that's another hard question for a lot of kids. But I bet you can do it. I'm going to pause for a second while you give it a shot. Amelia, the 16 and the 20. That part's like its own little problem. Did you factor it into 5 times 4? And did you factor it into 4 times 4?
Yes.
And what canceled? And you ended up with what left at the end? What goes here? What goes here? 5 and 4. So what got canceled actually? The 4s. They both had a 4 on the top and a 4 on the bottom. So that's what canceled. Okay. Now, who can handle the x's? Come on, step up. If you answer this one, I won't make you answer anymore today. Get your participation over with. Jackson, tell me what to do with the x's. Yeah. And when they go up, they become positive x squared. And then it's like x squared and x to the third right next to each other. They're both positive now because they moved up to the top. Do you get that part about when they move to the top, they become positive? So now, Jackson, what is that? X to the what? You are correct. Okay, and then how about the y's? Again, if you're willing to answer this one, I won't bother you for the rest of the hour. What do I do? Kennedy. Okay, so then you get y to the negative 1 on the top. But you better not leave it that way because it's unhappy. So where should it go? So it becomes y to the positive 1 on the bottom. Do you get the difference? You can do that subtract thing you just said. I personally like just going y over y, and then I go, oh yeah, cancels. Then I just have a y on the bottom. There's your answer. Now, I need to know, be honest, because if a lot of people struggled, I should do another one like that. How many of you got that exactly right with no extra help? All right. We can do another one like that, but maybe we'll do it later in the hour. All right. Next kind of problem. This one, most of you will probably figure it out, but it's gonna, wait a minute, I'm wrong, sorry, this should be a 17. Nope, wait, pausing. Okay, there, fix it to be that. 4 times x minus 1 squared minus 8 equals negative 4. Megan, can you tell me the first step? You are correct. Everybody add 8 to both sides. Carl, after that 8 gets added, now what?
It's 4.
Yep, you're doing good.
Equals 4.
Yeah. So what do I do?
You gotta get rid of that exponent.
Nope.
No, divide by 4.
There it is. Now we'll get rid of the exponent as long as you know what 4 divided by 4 is. Avia. What do I get here? 4 divided by 4? 1. Good. Okay, now, Mallory. How do you get rid of squared? Nope. It's the opposite of squared. It's square root. Also known as putting it to the 1/2 power. But most people would rather do this symbol. Square root. Square root. Now, that's a weird one. What is the square root of 1? It's like what times what makes 1? 1. And then I have x minus 1 here. Now, I'm about to tell you something that a lot of people don't understand. And that's that when you square root a variable, you get the absolute value. Now, this is the kind of thing that might earn you extra credit on the test if you could understand this. Not like this is hard enough that I get you might not get it. When you square root a variable, it brings in absolute value bars. And then we did those in the last unit. Do you remember the split deal? So if you ever square root a variable, you'll actually technically get 2 answers. X minus 1 is 1, and x minus 1 is, what do you think? -1. Remember that deal with the splits? We did have a test on that. Okay, now how did that happen? Because you did a square root of a variable. All right, so back to this. Now we're going to add 1 to both sides. X equals 2. Add 1, x equals 0. There's 2 different answers? Yes, there is. And I bet a lot of people would have just had the x equals 0 answer. But it's actually 2 answers. 2 and 0. And again, if you could have got both of those, you might have gotten extra credit on the test. Because that's that tricky. Okay. Let's try another one with a fraction power, but this time, no wait, let's try one where you gotta have bases that are the same. So I'm gonna give you a baby one. We'll start with the easy one. 2 to the n is equal to 4. Well, if they both had a 2 base, then this problem would be easy, because then if the bases are the same, you can ignore the bases. So that 4 just needs to become what? 2 squared. And then the bases are the same, so you can kind of ignore them. I'm going to just kind of ignore them. So what's left? N equals 2. Done. If you get the bases the same, these problems are easy. So the hard part is just making the bases the same. Here, the base is the same with the other base, and it equals another one that's got the base the same. If all those are the same, then you can ignore the bases. But on this kind, don't you have to put the powers together? That's 8 to the x plus 1. When they're next to each other, you add these. This is still 8 to the 3rd. Process what I just wrote there. Do you get that 2 8s that are just multiplied with each other, you would have to add the powers? If you can't get this, it's okay, but then you might not be able to get an A on this next test. This is one of the hard ones. These two get added because they're not like a power to a power. They're just 2 numbers being multiplied, then their powers get added. All right, and then it's easy, because from here, easy peasy, x plus 1 is 3. And if you can't say all of x plus 1 equals 3, then you shouldn't be in higher algebra. Minus 1, x equals 2. How many got to x is 2 before I even said it? Awesome. Let's do one more like that. 10 to the n times 10 to the 2n, remember what you do with those powers? Equals 100. Wait. I wish you would have said 10. Well, you can make it a 10 then. 100 could be 10 to the something. All right, Try solving that one. I'm going to pause for a second, give you a little time. Hint, put these two together first. Make this one have a base of 10. Okay, so these 10s get put together, and they're 10 to the this plus this. What's n plus 2n? 3n. And this should be 10, but you can just say 10. 100 isn't 10, but it's 10 to the second. How many of you guys understood that? You could get the two bases the same. You got that? Okay. Then we can just ignore these and focus on that equals that. 3n equals 2. And from there, it's baby talk. Divide by 3, done. 2/3. Who had 2/3 for your final answer? Awesome. I'm going to leave it up there for a second so you can ask me any questions if you haven't. Grace?
Wait, so you did 10 to the 2. Why?
Because 100 is 10 squared, and that made the bases match. Would you agree that 10 times 10 is 100?
Yeah.
So I put 10 squared there so that then there would be a 10 here and there'd be a 10 here. It's always good to get the bases the same. Does that make sense?
Well, I would just done like 10 to the 10th power.
10 to the 10th isn't 100. 10 to the 10th is actually really big.
Oh, okay.
All right, it's just a little brain slip there. I get it. Okay, I have only one more difficult one that we should tackle before lunch. And then after lunch, we got a practice test where there's lots of easy ones. You'll feel like it's like, oh, sweet, this is so nice. And then you'll have 4 hard ones again at the end of the practice test. Then there's a key for the practice test. And this one's, yeah, really, really important. Okay, so here's the last one before we head to lunch. Okay, if you had to solve this, first tell me your first step. Divide by 3, good. Then, since 75 divided by 3 is mildly difficult, you'd have a calculator, right? I'll be your calculator on that one. Comes out to 25. You got this now. Then what do you do to both sides? Put it to the 3/2. You can do this one in your head. You don't have to, but can you do the square root of 25 in your head? I can. Then, can you put it to the 3rd? I can. If not, use a calculator. And at the end, you'll have x minus 1 equals that number, which will work out nice if you use your calculator right. And then you just have to add 1, you'll be done. Okay, instead of using a lot of time and drum roll and everything, square root of 25 was 5, and then you do a normal power of 3, 5 to the 3rd, 125. How many of you got that? Awesome. Then you just have to add 1, and your final answer is 126. But wait, did anybody notice that I just did a square root on both sides? Remember, for extra credit, if you did a square root on both sides, you should do this so you actually get 2 answers. I know some of you are like, well, I'm never getting the extra credit. Okay, it's just square root on both sides. If you can remember that, it's not that bad. X minus 1 equals negative 125, and then your final answer would be 126, which we said in the first place, and also negative 124. Ooh. Remember, that was for extra credit. All right, lunchtime. Pausing for them. Okay, welcome back from lunch. So, one more of the kind that, like, I don't know, 40% of you got wrong. 25 over 35. Hint, they both factor with a 5 in them. X to the negative second, it's not happy where it is. Move it. Y to the 3rd. Oh, that's a power of 3, sorry. Y to the 3rd. And then we're going to put a X down here and a Y to the 5th up there. Okay. Simplify that one. Let's see if we can get it up to almost everybody this time. My advice, think of the numbers as one thing. Oh, all of the x's as another thing. And then all of the y's, do those last. Pausing for a second while you give that one a try. So, let's use dice to just not make you feel like I'm picking on any individual kid. This is random chance. I roll a die and I say, that's row 1. That's one of you two. And it's the last half of the numbers, so that makes it you. So, Ian, tell me something about this problem.
What's a problem?
Yes, can't argue with that. How about this? Do you know anything about the 25 and the 35?
Dividable by 5.
Yes, so it's 5 times 7, and it's 5 times 5. That's the smart way to do that, because then you'll go,
Well, it's 5 times 5 on top.
yeah, I said it right, but then I wrote it wrong. Sorry about that. 5 times 5 and 5 times 7. There. And then the 5's cancel, and you'll know it's 5 over 7. Make sense? Okay. Now, how about the x's? I'm going to go put the 5 over 7 here so I have more room. How about the x's? Well, Avia, can you tell me about that unhappy x?
And you're gonna move it to the bottom.
Yep.
So it can be x to the positive.
X to the 2, but then it goes with this other x, which doesn't have a power, which means what power is it?
It's in power.
Power of 1. Good.
Which does-
By the way, if anything was ever a power of 0, it's not 0. If anything is ever power of 0, then the answer to it is 1. This one is a power of 1. Okay, so then you put it together and you got x to the 3rd. I bet you had that. And then Megan Peterson, the y's. How many are left and where are they?
Is it y to the 2?
I could go like this, and then I could go y, and then yes, it's y to the 2. Could you say that in a more professional way?
Y to the 2nd?
Yes. So 5 y to the 2nd over 7 x to the 3rd. This time, how many people had it exactly right? So I can tell whether you're getting this or not. Did you get that one right? Okay. All right, good. Okay. Now, this is the part where for the rest of the hour, I made a practice test. I wanted you to use it because it took me an hour and a half to make it and make the key. It's there. Key's posted. Please take your time. Do a good job. And if I were you, I'd skip over some of the easy ones and get to the hard ones and do them and check them. Because if you don't get a hard one, I can show it to you in class. You can always do the easy ones at home. Try the hardest ones here in class so that you can ask me for help. If the key doesn't make sense to you, start with the key though. But once you looked at the key, if you still don't get it, walk up. Let me help you. And that's all I have for the video for today. Test is tomorrow.